And we are live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see here. Let me know that you all can hear me. I can see all of you all in the chat. It is the first Wellness Wednesday here with Melissa D. Hall of the Hall Insurance Group, y'all. And I am just so happy to be here today. If you all can hear me all right, can you say hello to me in the chat? Okay. Yes, hello everyone. And listen, today is such a special day because you know why? It is my birthday. Woo! It is my birthday, y'all. Another year around the sun. Can you let me all know that you all hear me in the chat, please? If you all can hear me, say that you all can hear me. Okay, so today, you all, we have a very, very special show, okay, full of high energy. And just to let y'all know, we're going to be doing this every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Okay, happy birthday. Thank you so much for the birthday love. I need it. Y'all, I had a fabulous birthday party this weekend. I had a champagne soiree. All of my friends and family came in from out of town. It was a very intimate group, and they just celebrated me. You know, especially after COVID, I believe that we need to celebrate every year because nothing is promised to us. Wouldn't y'all agree? Type that in the chat. Hi, Mamie Pulliam. And I see some special guests. Shout out to Mamie Pulliam. She has been a long-term client. Hello, Mamie Pulliam. Okay. I see Miss Lena Stepp. How you doing, Miss Lena Stepp? Thank you so much for the happy birthday wishes. Okay. Thank you, Miss Esiosa Smith there. Esiosa, that's our assistant. Shout out to Esiosa. And also, I see here Miss Linda Alston. Okay, Tawanda Thomas. All right. Mr. DR, thank you so much, Mr. DR. And share this out with your friends. Okay, Mr. Abby Brown. Shout out to Mr. Abby Brown. Okay, it begins right now, Mr. Brown and Miss Benita Hamilton. What a pleasure. What an honor. So listen, y'all. If y'all don't know, I own the Hall Insurance Group, okay, and we help seniors with their insurance needs, whether it is Medicare, whether it is life insurance, health insurance, Medicare supplements, annuities, long-term care, estate planning. And we felt like the Wellness Wednesday would be a great chance to give back to our community. If you all know, I put a video out on our YouTube channel of you all dancing to Boots on the Ground, and it went viral online with over 5 million views. And with those 5 million views, it grew my online presence just exponentially, right? And one thing that I found out is that a lot of seniors are at home and they're not able to get out like you used to. Is that right? And so I just wanted to create something where you all could just come, and even if you are at home, you could participate and you could get some knowledge and get some of this love and energy. And that's why I created Wellness Wednesday. And we're going to be doing this live every Wednesday at 12 p.m. So share this out with your friends and family. Make sure to mark this on your calendar because we are here to stay. And this is a very, very interactive show. Okay, so if you all have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. And look, if anybody wants to come on, right, and they want to tell me happy birthday and they want to join me, all right, you can go ahead and I'll send you a link. How about that? Who would like to come on and wish me a happy birthday? First of all, Benita said she had to refresh. Happy birthday, Melissa. That's Ashley Dixon. She is one of the agents here at the Hall Insurance Group out of Ohio. Shout out to Ashley. Belinda Drake. Okay. Who else? Happy birthday. Andre Allen, you said you could hear me. All right, fantastic. I sent a link in there if y'all want to come on. But listen, let's see if anybody clicks it. Also, am I streaming on Facebook as well? All right. Yes, I'm Melissa D. Hall. All righty. So let's go ahead and get started. So today we have a special guest who will be joining us. All right. We have Miss Lugina Diajuste. I know I'm messing up that name. Okay. You said wishing me many more with love. Miss Lugina Lugiste, okay, also known as Tread Chic on the internet, okay. I actually found her online. She has a YouTube channel as well that's about treadmill workouts, fitness, and everything. And I reached out to her because I actually take her workouts online. They're really good walking workouts if you have a treadmill. And in our conversation, she told me that she actually is a speech pathologist and she works with Alzheimer's patients. And for those of you all who do not know my story, my grandmother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and that really led to me getting in the insurance industry. And that is what she does. She's going to talk about how you can prevent Alzheimer's. Let me ask you all, does somebody here know anyone who has Alzheimer's? If you do, put in there. Did you all know that Alzheimer's and dementia, well, dementia could be prevented? Did you all know that? I had no idea. And when she told me that, y'all, I was like, okay, I have to have her on. She has to be my guest because how can you prevent dementia? I didn't think that was possible. I just thought this was something you suffer with, right? So she's going to tell us how you can somebody said, Ms. Drake said, yes, she knows someone. I'm sure you all know. Caring for somebody with Alzheimer's, it is expensive. It is somebody said, yes, your brother. Okay, Miss Lena, listen, it's expensive caring for somebody with Alzheimer's, and it's also very taxing on the caregivers. A lot of caregivers, they actually, tap out themselves, right? Because they put so much energy into caring for that person. And so we're also going to talk to that. Somebody said my grandmother had dementia. Belinda Drake said my 94-year-old. I am so sorry to hear that. That's the thing. It's so many people have it and they just feel so helpless. And like, since that kind of runs in my family, it's definitely been a fear of mine. And I'm sure, the rest of my family members on like, are we just going to be victim to this? Is there anything that we can do? And so without further ado, I'm going to bring Miss Lugina on. Okay. And also, if you want more information about the Hall Insurance Group, go to the hallinsurancegroup.com. I'll scroll down on the bottom, or you can hit our contact us. But let me go ahead and bring Miss Lugina on and we're going to talk all about it. Okay. All right. Your 94-year-old grandmother's still there, Miss Straight? Fantastic. Hello, Lugina.
Hi, Melissa. How are you?
I am fantastic.
Happy birthday.
Woo! Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm feeling great today. Somebody said, Belinda said, I feel like I'm getting old. Oh, you're not getting old. All right. All right, Lugina. So go ahead and tell the people about yourself because you are here to share with us the good news, okay? That we can prevent this. We do not have to be victims of Alzheimer's or dementia. And everybody needs to hear this, okay? So tell us, how did you get into this?
Okay. So hello again, everyone. My name is Lugina Dierjust, and I am a speech language pathologist as well as a certified running and walking coach. And I've been a speech pathologist for about 15 years, and I've worked in all areas. So I've worked in schools, I've worked in assisted living facilities, memory care, independent living, etc. And so working with adults is my passion. I love working with end of age because my seniors have so much to share. And so I always just love working with that population. Being in assisted living and memory care, I started working with a lot of clients that have dementia, stroke patients, etc. And so while working, I realized I just started doing a lot of research on what's going on with dementia. Why is this happening? Why does this happen to some and not happen to others? And so working with clients and their families as well, just understanding cognition, communication. And so that just made me want to sort of hone in on that area, just realizing the dementia families of those with dementia, they experience so much. And I not only want to help their family members, but I wanted to help them prevent a lot of the issues that they think prevent a lot of the issues that they think they would have as well. Because just because your family member has dementia does not mean that can happen to you. So not only helping them get through, work with their family members, help them get through the cognition difficulties, the communication difficulties, also helping family members communicate with their family, communicate with their loved ones, as well as helping them add a lot of things within their lifestyle to prevent it as well. So that just being a speech pathologist, that's what we do. Cognitive communication, whether it be planning, orientation, judgment, reasoning, because that's what goes. When you have dementia, we realize that umbrella term, it's losing your memory, your judgment, planning, etc. And so that is what I do as a speech pathologist, working with those areas and helping their families work with their loved ones. And so, but long story long, I that's what I do as a speech pathologist, work on a lot of cognitive communication issues, and which dementia is involved in that. So.
Okay, very, very good. I have an aunt. She's a speech pathologist, and she's real sweet. Her name is Aunt Ruby, and I did not know you all do that. So let's talk about that. So is dementia, when we think about it, we just think about, yes, glad to hear it's not hereditary. I like that. Definitely glad to hear it's not hereditary.
And we'll talk more about that because we'll talk more about some that are hereditary and some that aren't. We'll get into all of that.
Okay, so first of all, what is dementia exactly? What is dementia? What is Alzheimer's? What's the difference?
So dementia is like an umbrella term for symptoms where you lose memory, judgment, etc. So it's just that umbrella term. When you think of an umbrella around that, it's not a disease itself. The disease is the type of dementia that you have. And so again, dementia is just an umbrella term. There are different types of dementia. And so that's where we get into the actual disease. Alzheimer's is the most prevalent. So a lot of people call it, they just sort of say dementia's Alzheimer's. They're different ones. And so, yes, dementia is the umbrella term, and there are lots of different forms of dementia. So Alzheimer being the most prevalent. Then you have vascular dementia. So there are different ones, and that's the difference. So Alzheimer's has its side effects. All of them have different side effects. And so they each have their different qualities in terms of, if you go to the doctor and they run different tests, they'll be able to tell you, oh, this is the type of dementia that you have. Because you're losing your memory, your judgment. Typically, there's about 2 or 3 things that doctor notices and says, okay, there's dementia here. And now they decide what is the specific disease that you have. And so we typically hear again about Alzheimer's. That is the top one. And then there are others that fall underneath.
Okay. Wonderful.
Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. So what are some signs that a person has dementia or is starting dementia? What are some signs versus having dementia versus just getting older?
And so this is a great question, because I think a lot of people, because they may forget a name or because they may all of a sudden put their keys someplace in the house that they can't find, and they're older, they think, oh my gosh, I'm losing my mind. And so there are differences between someone that is that has dementia or has mild cognitive impairments, as opposed to someone who's normally aging, because dementia is not a disease of old age. And that's another thing to say, that just because you're getting older does not mean that's going to happen. A lot of people think, oh, that's just a disease of old age. It is not. And so some of the signs, if you forget where you are, like if you're in your own home and you sort of are not able to remember or recall where things are. If you start doing, in terms of losing judgment, your pills, you get increased confusion. Or I tell you a story right now and you repeat it like a minute later, you're not able to recall that you didn't remember a minute before, that you said a minute before. So it affects your daily function. So there's a difference between you forgetting something and it's not affecting your daily function. Like if I forget where my keys are, I just look for them and I find them, as opposed to putting them in places like my freezer, right? Because you're not, or if you're going someplace, you drive in your neighborhood and you completely forget where you are. So those are things that are totally affecting your daily function. That's the difference, because again, people just think, oh my gosh, I can't remember such and such's name.
Mm-hmm.
It's not mean anything. It's not mean that.
Let me ask you a question. So Miss Lisa Austin said both grandmothers had dementia and Alzheimer's. I thought Alzheimer's was diagnosed at death.
So yeah, a lot of doctors are doing. Yeah, great question. A lot of them, so because you would have to go into the brain. Dementia, such as Alzheimer's, is diagnosed by looking at the brain. So the tau tangles that are in the brain, yes, specifically. However, a lot of doctors have different, to say, if you fall under these qualifications, this is typically Alzheimer's. Or if you fall under these, this is vascular dementia. Or if you fall under these, that's Parkinson's dementia. So because of the types of symptoms that you're going through, they're typically able to assess which type of dementia you have. And there are more tests that are being done that allow you to see that prior to death. So you don't always have to wait until then. But again, for instance, with vascular dementia, that is blood vessels within your brain, oxygen not getting to your brain. So you don't have to wait till death for that. With Alzheimer's, there's also like the tau tangles, although we may not, there are some tests that some doctors are running that allow you to see those things. It's not just death. But again, it's the symptoms and say, okay, this falls underneath this category, which is Alzheimer's. So it's just because of the types of cognitive issues that you're having that cause them to realize where it may be, or what type you have, or what symptoms, etc.
Okay. So talking about, let's get back to the symptoms. Okay. What are the top symptoms that a person has dementia?
So we talk about memory, but it's immediate recall. So if we're sitting here talking and I have no idea who you are and I don't know why I'm here, those are things. So memory, immediate recall, you have a tough time with.
Immediate recall.
Recall. There's also delayed recall where you cannot remember things that happened before, because there are different types of memory. When we think of this working memory, there's a lot of other things happening within. When we think of the brain and everything that it does, there's different types of memory. But those are the common symptoms that family members will notice, because there are 7 stages of dementia, like the 7 stages that we have. So in the beginning, it's pretty, you don't even notice anything. And then there's mild. And so you start getting to the repetitive things that you may notice family members saying over and over again, or things, reasoning that is off. Their judgment is off. They're not oriented to time, place. So those things start to sort of fade. And then you'll notice that as time goes on. So it's, again, a significant things that are going to get in the way of your daily function, where you cannot, do things the way you typically would. You're totally affected when you can't do things alone. So it's past just like, oh, let me think about it. Oh, I got it. It's completely start falling off where you cannot make the decisions on your own, and you start noticing that falling. And it's not coming back. It's just continuing to be.
Just continuing. So let me ask, because I know they have something called the clock test. Is that something?
Yes. So that's one of the tests that we sort of run to decide cognitively what's going on. And so depending on, and I wish I had a picture. So what I would typically ask a client to do is draw a clock. And so write the numbers from how you would write the numbers on a clock. And then I would ask you to put in a time, like perhaps 11:15 or 10:15. And so I would ask you to sort of do that. A lot of times where that may be easy to you, someone that is going through dementia, those symptoms, have a difficult time where they're looking like they have no idea. Were you going to say something, Alyssa?
Yeah, no, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But one of our viewers said something. She said, Belinda Drake said, I asked my doctor to check me out, and she blatantly told me I didn't have it. I'm just overwhelmed, was her response. I no longer go to her. And she just said, I can't remember what you are saying, shaking my head. Oh, poor Belinda.
No.
Yeah.
We may, if you're having some difficulty, we can definitely talk afterwards, because we can talk about that. Who said that about their doctor? So Belinda,
that's what she said.
So, and there are a lot of things, and so this gets into different topics, right? Especially for women. And I'm going to just diverge for a little bit.
Because they say women are more likely to have it. Yes. And my grandmother as well, she was a hairdresser, and they said hairdressers are more likely to have Alzheimer's as well because of the chemicals. That's what we've heard.
Yes.
So go ahead and say what you were going to say.
No, I would just in terms of women, and that's a great point that you bring up. As women go through menopause, perimenopause, and menopause, our estrogen levels decrease. Significantly. Through life, we have a lot of estrogen, and estrogen talks to the brain. Our brain is clear. As some women hit perimenopause and menopause, that light sort of goes out, and you'll see images of women before menopause and after, and during like perimenopause, and the lights are just out. You have a lot of brain fog, you have a lot of memory concerns. So a lot of times doctors, that women are not studied, menopause is not studied, and so a lot of times doctors do not understand these things, and women are left to suffer on their own without getting the right help. And so instead of getting the help, early interventions, whether it be hormones that they need or other things to help them, other things that may occur like dementia, or more specifically Alzheimer's, because that attention is not paid to it. So when we talk about prevention, those types of things, as women going to doctors for them to say, let's look into this further. So it's terrible for a doctor to say you don't have it without looking into more, because for women at these ages, we go through so many things. And again, that brain fog, other things, etc. It's scary. And other issues such as Alzheimer's can occur if we do not take care of these issues, because it's really important.
Okay.
And so that's another thing.
Okay. And she said that in my mother, father, aunt, and other family members, 2 brothers all have it.
Wow. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that dementia could be caused by stress or like suppressed issues?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So these are the things in terms of prevention, right? And while we're here, let's talk about what's important throughout life, not just as we age, because my mission here is to make sure people understand about these things early. Like 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, we need to understand how to protect our brain throughout life, not just at the end of age when something is happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
So throughout life, we need to understand the importance of movement and the oxygen flow to our brain, how that provides healthy blood vessels, oxygen flowing, strength training for men and women throughout life, not just after 40, etc. Sleep. Some people work hard and say, oh, I'll sleep when I die. You will die, because that causes you need to sleep. That sleep is at the time when our brain is able to clean and do so many of its things. While we sleep is when our brain works, when our brain trashes things that don't need to be there. So when we don't sleep, it doesn't allow our brain to do what it needs to do so that we can function the right way day in and day out. So it's important that we get at least 7 to 9 hours of rest each night so that our brains can function. Now, a lot of women go through night sweats and all these other hot flashes that wake them up in the middle of the night. That's where we have to work on taking care of these things, so that what's causing that, et cetera, whether it be weight loss that needs to happen, et cetera, so that we can take care of these symptoms that are causing other things. Stress is another huge one that can cause lack of oxygen to the brain, that can prohibit us, that can cause lots of inflammation, that causes lack of oxygen to the brain over time, that leads to cognitive decline. And again, for those that don't know, what is cognition? Cognition is our ability to think, to be able to reason, to be able to have judgment, to be able to orientate ourselves. So we need to be protecting ourselves at all ages, not just at 60 and 70, throughout life, because Alzheimer's doesn't happen when we're diagnosed. That started 20 years earlier, right? It starts way before. We have early onset Alzheimer's that can happen in your 40s, which again, that could be hereditary, right? But there are a lot of forms when dementia is happening, it's happening early on. The foods that we're eating is a number one thing, and the chemicals that we're taking into our body. But food, nutrition, we have especially within a lot of communities, families are eating ultra processed foods that are causing insulin issues, high glucose levels, high blood sugar levels, that are, again, we'll get into the diabetes talk, that is causing a lot of issues within the brain as well, that leads to dementia and dementia, different types of dementia, especially.
Sure. And let's talk about that. Okay. So let's talk about the different types of dementia, because when I was talking to you, that's something you brought up. I had no idea that there were different types.
Yes, there are. And so we typically hear about Alzheimer's as being the number one. We have Alzheimer's, and the most common type, that's the common type, is 60 to 80% of dementia cases are Alzheimer's. So that's why that's the one that people think, and they could confuse what's Alzheimer's, what's dementia. Again, I want you to all remember that dementia is the umbrella term. When you think of dementia, that means you have all these symptoms are happening. Now, which one is which? Okay, I have judgment issues. I have emotional issues. I have all of a sudden someone starting to scream and yell. That may be, again, we'll get into celebrities, from Bruce Willis, who has frontotemporal dementia, that you have emotional issues where you all of a sudden you're not able to, you're not as kind. You have issues with your frontal lobe. So what would tell you, for instance, when you see someone in some place and you think that they don't look good or something, you have the front of your brain tells you don't say it, but that is gone. And then you all of a sudden just start saying everything and anything. So then the doctors know, this seems more like frontotemporal, right? So
So let me ask you a question. So if a
Mhm,
person just has no filter and they just start saying things,
mhm.
they usually have frontal temporal dementia.
And so the changes in personality, yes. That's the characteristic of frontotemporal dementia. So you have changes in
Okay.
personality, behavior, your language. You start someone who may never have cursed in their life, all of a sudden it's cursing like a sailor a lot of times. And there's other things that they look at, but that is common of frontotemporal dementia. And you have heard with Bruce Willis that has that type, how he would just have these crazy outbursts. And he also has aphasia, which is a language disorder. Is combined with that. He has another an aphasia. I don't know if you heard of aphasia.
No, what is aphasia?
So aphasia is a language disorder that typically happens to those with that have a stroke or other type of issues within brain disorder, something that happens, right? Brain infarct or something. So aphasia, for instance, it's like the different types. So one is where you have that tip of your tongue, like you see the word sun, you
Mm-hmm.
want to say the word, but you cannot recall, you cannot say it. So it's your ability, you have lost the ability to sort of use your language to speak in speak. So
Okay.
there's different types of it though. So then that same thing with that, your Broca's, you have Wernicke's, there's different types of aphasia as well. And depending on the types of symptoms, they'll know what type of aphasia you have.
Okay. Wow. Interesting. And that's so Belinda Drake, she said she was saying that I was stressed, but she doesn't have the right to deny me the proper test to rule it out. And that is so right. And that
Mhm.
actually makes me bring up something called ageism in
Yes.
healthcare. And what
Mhm.
ageism is discrimination because of your age. And believe it or not, 1 in 5 doctors practice this. What does that mean? That means that, let's say if you need a test, it doesn't become about prevention or curing anymore when it comes to your health. It just becomes about placating, making you comfortable, right? So let's say, for instance, if you are having issues with your side, right? Instead of maybe giving you a colonoscopy, okay? They don't give you a colonoscopy. They don't try to necessarily diagnose it. They just give you something to make you comfortable. And that is illegal. Okay, that is totally illegal. And if you are requesting this test, your doctor is supposed to give it to you because there are things that you can do.
Absolutely.
And that brings us to prevention, right? So Mrs. Austin, she asked about can we do brain exercises to help? She also said this. Mrs. also said, I had a heart attack and an ischemic stroke last June, and I have been brain fog and cognitive dissonance.
Mm.
I don't know if that will make me more likely to have dementia.
Yeah. And so you may be at a stage, depending on where you are, like the different symptoms. There are tests quick tests that we give to
Mhm.
determine what's happening, what stage you're at before we give longer cognitive assessments. Like there's a test that I have the slums, et cetera, other tests that I give. Well, you see them, the presidents talk about, I had a cognitive test in the doctor's office. And so these are different things that we can do a quick test to sort of see where you are to determine, and then we can do other assessments to see exactly where the issues are, whether it be with judgment, what cognitive issues you're having exactly. So that it's just so depending on where you are, yes, that can go away, that can be reversed, depending on where you are. But brain fog can happen, but with this, it can be, depending on where you are, it can be reversed, if that makes sense.
Okay, it can be
Uh,
reversed.
it can, depending on what's going on, depending on the level, if there is dementia going on, depending on what stage. If we are still at the mild stages, is it because of medication? Those types of things can be like, not if something is happening and someone is again at stage 4 or 5, that's not something that we can sort of automatically reverse. But if someone is at the beginning and there's a medication that could be causing brain fog or causing cognitive issues, that may be something that we can sort of remove from your diet, something that we may need to add to sort of either change
Okay.
the progression time,
Mhm.
or it'll change the progression time or eliminate altogether.
Okay, or eliminate. So let's get into this.
Mhm.
First, I want to talk about how we can prevent dementia.
Okay.
Then once you give us that information, I
Mhm.
want to talk about if a person is showing signs or has dementia. I want to talk about how can it be reversed
Mhm.
because you brought that up as well, which I thought was very interesting. I never heard anybody talk about that.
Mhm.
So let's start with the how we can prevent.
Okay. So, and I didn't know, I started talking before. Did you want me to go over the types of dementia, or or
We were
not?
talking about aphasia. Okay, all right, let's continue then. So much has been coming up. They have so many good
I know, so many
questions.
great questions.
Yes, and like Miss Mamie Pulliam, she said here, I sometimes just can't remember things. Is that part of dementia?
So that can be, depending on the significance of it, that could be no sign of normal aging. That happens with normal aging, where we forget simple things. But again, it depends on how. If you can't remember a conversation that you had with a son or daughter 10 minutes ago, like what type of things aren't you remembering? And your age as well. So we have to decide what types of things are you forgetting. Are they affecting your daily function, etc.? So I would have to have more detail, but that does not, just because you're forgetting things does not mean that has to be dementia. There's so much more involved. There's significant types of issues with memory that you may notice. Again, it could be, did you just have a conversation with someone? You repeated something. You had a conversation, you told someone a story, and then you repeated it like 2 minutes later. Like, are you forgetting those types of things? Or are you forgetting something that happened 10 years ago? It just depends on what you're forgetting. A lot of people get scared, but it just depends. Each situation is different.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Drake says, Sinai just sent my mother 94 home with a history of UTI. She's still having a really bad burning sensation. It's causing her not to drink. And I need some literature to what you are saying, if possible. Yes, I can give you some information on ageism. Okay.
Yeah. That UTI is another one where that someone will have symptoms similar to dementia as well. But the UTI, we know, can be taken care of with antibiotics, right? So a lot of times people would not know, because you have a lot of side effects with UTIs, personality changes, etc.
Really?
Oh my gosh. In an assisted living facility, sometimes if all of a sudden 1 week I have a client that is just fine and they wake up 3 days later and they're just like, something's just not right, we know that it could possibly be a UTI. We send out a urine sample because of that.
A urinary tract infection can affect your brain?
Oh my gosh. Personality, all those things, it can affect that. And that can be reversed, right? Because someone may think, my mom, something's going on with my mom. So that can definitely change, where it's just someone who's just fine. Like I worked with a client on Monday and I went in on Wednesday and it was like this erratic behavior. And this is someone that doesn't have dementia. So this person does not have dementia. All of a sudden, it's just this, you notice that they've changed within 3 days. That's not how dementia happens. Dementia happens, it's like a gradual thing. But if the person wakes up, they were fine on Monday, and on Tuesday they wake up and they are completely a different person, typically we have to send a urine sample out to find out. They usually have a UTI and they need antibiotics, because that's why each situation is different. You have to assess each person, not say, oh, this is dementia or this is this. Each situation has to be looked at individually.
Interesting. Thank you. Thank you. She said they gave her antibiotics cause memory loss and less fatal. Interesting. So Thomas Clark, okay, he says, sometimes we suffer from the primary effect and regency effect when it comes to our memory. You ever heard of that? The primary.
Can you go into that more, Thomas?
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about, while he's typing that, let's talk about the different types of dementia. Let you finish that out, because I know Wendy Williams.
Yeah.
They diagnosed her recently with the type of dementia.
Same one that Bruce Willis had. They diagnosed her with the same frontotemporal, which again is changes in personality, behavior, language difficulties, and motor disorders, which could have issues with the way you're walking or speaking. They also both, her and Bruce Willis also have the aphasia. That's what they have, which is again a language disorder that inhibits you to use language in a way that you typically would. Now, with aphasia, like I said, you could have one where you're just talking elaborately and not making any sense. So that would be more of a Wernicke's aphasia. And then there's one where you talk in like bits and pieces of words, still confusing, and that's a Broca's aphasia. So again, each situation is different. But with Bruce Willis, it's called a primary progressive aphasia, where language and communication are the primary issue of that dementia. So again, it's frontotemporal though. dementia with that. And then you have vascular dementia, which has to do with lack of oxygen to the brain. And so that could be one that's hereditary, where if you have a history of issues with blood vessels, a lack of oxygen to the brain, that could be something that might be issues with diabetes that could, but we'll get into that one as well. But vascular dementia is you have reduced blood flow to the brain. So if you have a family that has issues with blood flow, all of those things, for some reason, blood clots that causing those things,
really,
that could be something that happens. So there are certain types that just are like Huntington's disease as well.
Yes.
Is a type of dementia where that is more hereditary. You typically have a gene for that. So when we talk about ones that are preventable, there's some that are hereditary with no matter what, sometimes if you have that gene. However, we need to make sure we are making sure we take care of our bodies. And we'll talk about the preventative steps, because even though, and I say this all the time, our genes load the gun, but it's our environment that pulls the trigger.
Okay, so
like for instance, all of us have cancer cells, all of us. Now, there's some of us, a small number, no matter what we do, we can live the healthiest lives, be the best, that will happen. But to the majority, if we all have cancer cells, and if we keep things at bay, things are typically okay. But then they're the environment, whether it be the toxins, the food, the lack of sleep, the stress that bubbles up and causes these things to arise within ourselves, right? Or then you have those are able to keep it at bay, and then those never come.
Wow.
So well, but each individual is different. Each person is different.
Yes, ma'am. So you're saying a lot, right? Right now.
I'm sorry.
Yes, you are. You're fine. You're saying a lot, and I know this is your passion. Yeah. And let me just look at the comments. Belinda said, my dad passed in September, dementia and diabetes. He was 96. We sorry to hear that. Teresa Gay said, on a plane, can't stay long. Happy birthday, beautiful. My birthday is the 24th. Happy Wednesday. On my way to Atlantic City to meet my two sisters from New York. Okay. Thank you. Okay. And enjoy. And listen, if you all are enjoying this, please go ahead and share this out to your network. Share this with a friend who needs to hear this great conversation. Okay. Because everybody knows somebody who this has touched. And again, we're going to be doing this every Wednesday at 12 p.m. All right, I'm your host, Melissa D. Hall of the Hall Insurance Group, and this is Miss Lugina here. Say the last name, Lugina.
Dejust or Dejust for those that don't speak French.
Dejust. I know. And she is a speech pathologist. Okay, and she helps people with dementia as well. So you could reach out to her. So, and somebody said, she said, I have an 86-year-old sister. She's very forgetful, repeats the same conversations very often. Does that sound like dementia?
That is one of the, so those are symptoms of when you're constantly repeating the same things. That is a symptom of it. But again, it's good to have a test to look at that deeply. But that is a symptom, yes, if you're repeating the same things over and over again.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you so much, Ms. Berry, for the birthday wishes. So now let's get to this. How can you prevent dementia?
Okay, so we talked about movement being an important piece that we need to have throughout our lives, not only as we age, but throughout. We have to move our bodies at least 150 minutes a week, right? So 30 minutes a day, going for a brisk walk. We have to start incorporating. It doesn't have to be anything that's hard, but you need to be at least a level 2, a zone 2 with your heart rate, a nice brisk walk. Lifting weights. Again, it doesn't have to be anything that's crazy, but strengthening your body. This all helps blood flow, oxygen to our brain.
Increasing that blood flow.
That blood flow, making sure our heart is healthy, because, and just making sure our bodies are healthy, right? But people don't realize the importance and what the fitness releases within our bodies. It is important to add that in. A lot of people, when you ask them if you work out, oh, girl, I don't work out. It is not something that you should want to or not want to. It is a necessity. Fitness, movement, strength training is a necessity. And we have to get out of the mindset that it's a end of life. It's my doctor living a reactive life, or the doctor says I have to start doing something. I have diabetes. The doctor said I have to start working out. We need to do this, prevent these things early early on and not react to what the doctor says. We're not waiting for this diagnosis to come up for us to decide we're finally going to take care of ourselves, right? Sorry, go ahead, Melissa. Were you going to say something?
Yes, I wanted to, and maybe you were going to name it. I wanted to know, besides like exercising, increasing that blood flow, right? What else can we do? Are there things we maybe could eat, right?
Absolutely.
Or even vitamins we could take?
That I'm going to get into all of that as well. So nutrition is another thing that's important. This country is filled with over processed foods. Many of us if you go into your pantries or your refrigerator, we look at the foods that we have, the packaged foods that are filled with ingredients. These things are killing us day by day. They are hurting our insulin, causing us to be insulin resistant, which is causing excess weight gain, which is causing issues with diabetes. That is caused a lot of times with the way that we eat, our environment not moving. Because, and I'll say this quickly in terms of diabetes, because of that high blood sugar and then the insulin resistance, that causes issues with our blood vessels to the brain, which causes inflammation, which causes cognitive decline over time. So those with diabetes are more at risk of having dementia, especially more specifically Alzheimer's, because of the lack of oxygen to the brain, because of those blood vessels dying, basically because of lack of oxygen. And that's what that high blood pressure, blood sugar, and lack of and insulin resistance do to us. They cause issues with our brain. The oxygen is not able to flow, and which is why people that are diabetic are typically at high risk of having dementia.
Okay, and let's talk about that, because with the relationship between diabetes and dementia, because I know they call dementia diabetes 3. Is that right?
They do call it that. And the reason they do that is because when we think of what diabetes is, type 2 diabetes, it is the insulin resistance to the body. And so we talk about the Alzheimer's, or because it's more specifically, you get Alzheimer's if you have diabetes. That's just in terms of research. But they say that because it's lack of insulin resistance to the brain, which is causing lack of oxygen going to the brain. So that's why they call it type 3, because of that insulin, because it could possibly be causing insulin resistance to the brain. So that's why they say type 2 diabetes, even though that's not an official name. That's just something that they're calling it because of insulin resistance to the brain, which is again is causing lack of oxygen, causing inflammation, etc. So, but besides that, diabetes can lead to this as well, because people are not taking care of themselves, as causing increased inflammation to the brain, and is a cognitive decline over time is occurring.
Wow. Okay. So let's talk about, okay, let's say if you feel like you somebody said, what about pre-diabetes? That's what Ms. Gay asked, if it could lead to this. I guess so, if it's about the inflammation and the blood flow, correct?
Yeah, we need to, and with pre-diabetes, we can reverse those things. With that is, if it's type 2, these are environmental things that can be reversed with your movement, your nutrition, especially. These things are happening in our kitchens. We need to eat whole, real food. That is the thing. We're not eating processed junk, cooked food. We're gonna sweet potatoes, vegetables, fruits, grains, nuts, seeds, real food, not all of the nonsense, because that is the thing. And then people are eating all these cakes and sweets, and I'm not saying once in a while, but then if you're constantly eating these things, your body's in this state where your insulin is you're constantly eating all of these things. Your body's always storing it as fat. You're gaining all of this excess weight, wreaking havoc on your body. So we have to. It's one that you eat, and it just you keep eating with no sense of control. And those things add up over time.
Sure.
And so there's a lot of things. We have to eat real food.
Let me ask you, is there one thing that you could point out that leads to dementia that we eat?
Well, all the ultra processed foods, all of you, if you look in your pantry, like if you're constantly all the cakes and sugars, the white bread, the white rice, but especially refined carbohydrates are especially, because those things spike our blood sugar so much. The cereals that we're feeding our kids in the morning, like a lot of times we need to start thinking about savory things for breakfast, like maybe some eggs and other things, but the cereals, the oatmeal with all of the excess sugar in it, because oatmeal is not bad, right? But if you're adding all that excess sugar, right? So those are the types of things. So again, refined carbs, which consists of those white breads, the food, all these foods that are refined and processed, get that out.
Okay, no worries. So let's go ahead here and maybe talk about what we can do if we feel like, okay, a person's getting dementia or starting to. How could they reverse it?
Okay, so and it depends on the stage because we talked about there's 7 stages of dementia. And
Okay.
that first stage, you don't notice anything at all, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then the second stage is mild cognitive, very mild. Okay, you start noticing, but other people don't really notice, right? Then
Mm-hmm.
there's mild, then there's moderate, then there's moderate severe, then there's severe, and then very severe. So at the point where you have maybe at level 1 or 2, there's some things that are going on that you can lifestyle changes that you're making. Like if I each client is different. So for instance, for myself, if I'm working with a client, I give you an intake form. I know exactly what's going on. What is your environment like? What type of are you using perfumes all the time? Are you when you eat?
Perfumes.
Yeah, toxins, because there's a lot of toxins, right? Or the cleaning products that you're using. So we look at all of
Okay.
these things. And so I'm not saying all perfumes. I'm just saying how is that toxins? I need to see everything that's going on so we can decide, hey, are there some things that we can remove from your environment that are sort of causing some issues, right? So these are things which is why each individual is different. We have to sort of decide what each person is doing so that we know, okay, this is what's affecting you. So what may affect your body may not affect someone else's body. So we all look to see what each person is doing, what they're eating, what type of movement do they get in, what type of sleep are they getting, what type of stresses are on their life.
Okay.
Again, and then what type of social interaction are they by themselves all the time? Are they withdrawn? So those things we look at. So when we talk about these signs and it being reversed, it depends on what type of things are happening and what they're doing in their lifestyle, what type of lifestyle are they leading. And so it would depend on those things and how if we can remove or add. And then because I've seen many people have mild and then it totally dissipated and maybe not show up for a while, or they have it controlled. But reverse, if you're in the very, very mild phases of it, those are things that we can take care of, or doing things where it doesn't happen at all, or we can prevent, it can prolong the effects of it. So again,
Mhm.
each situation is going to be different, but we have to make sure we're adding in those lifestyle changes, like eating the right foods, like exercising, removing the consistent stress, the sleep, the social engagement, learning over time. So it's living a life where we're adding these things in bit by bit so that we don't end up having these things. Because again, just because mom or dad suffered from this, we all need to start taking action so it doesn't happen to us. Because a lot of us are going through these things already. We've been doing these things all of our lives. And you see your uncles and aunts suffering through it because my goodness, look at their habits throughout life. Or even
Mm.
dementia that's because of alcohol. That happens as well. Alcohol induced dementia, that is also a thing. And so we have to look at the life that we're leading and realizing a lot of us are doing this to ourselves.
Okay, okay.
Mhm.
Well, let me ask you, have you seen talk about a time that you've seen a person have dementia and it actually was reversed? Maybe a client you work with. Hmm.
So for myself, I work with very late end stage. So
Hmm.
it's like 4 or 5. So we're not at that point. We're not. There's no reversing. I've had doctors that I've studied with that I've read, seen their research. So
Hmm.
that with that, we've seen it being reversed. And there's a lot of papers on that right now. For myself, I've seen things get better. Like when I work on certain activities with them, I've seen, for instance, if I have a client that could not remember anyone's name and they are maybe like a stage 3 or 4, and I go in to see them every day and I introduce myself, hi, I'm Lugina. After point, hi, Lugina, every time they see. So there's certain,
Mm.
or like when we think about music, like if for and we didn't even get
Yes.
into caregivers and what we could do in the home. I know there's so much to talk about, but when we think about music, right? A lot of times music is the last thing to go. Someone may be at the last stage of dementia and you play a song that they've loved all their lives and you'll notice that they start to sing. And so
Yes.
those types of activities, those are things that I can incorporate to get things going if it's at the later stage. But earlier stages, I work with their memory, so I can try to jog their memory to start working on things, because that leads to being able to do other things. We work on folding, we work on planning, we work on their favorite meals and what are their favorite meals. And so we'll sort of write those things down, and those lead to them getting better with interaction, their social engagement, them having a better day, them being able to say, oh my gosh, I was able to recall her name. And I have a client of mine who could never remember my name. And so now, but we do a multiple choice thing. So every time I see him, I say, okay, I'll give it, okay, Dominic, we're going to play the name game. Okay, is my name Rebecca or Lugina? and he says, Lugina, and he gets so excited, and that
Yes.
changes his day. Like, oh my gosh, I remembered, because we do something over and over. So even though someone may be going through this, because you're later stages of dementia, you can still, that's as a speech pathologist, besides we work on so many different things, but with that, I do a lot of recall, with the recall therapy, helping with orientation, helping with planning, organization, judgment. So we work on all of these things on different days, different activities to help with those things, and you notice how they improve. So yes, just because someone's at a later stage, they can still do activities where they can improve their day even for the caregivers. So those things can happen as well. Another thing that speech therapists do with dementia, a lot of times you have difficulties with swallowing as you get later on. So speech pathologists are also swallowing experts. We work with that. So we're the ones that would take care of someone has to have a puree diet, a mechanical soft diet, or a regular diet. So we're sort of the ones that come in to decide what's happening with the swallow and what we need to do.
Okay, wonderful. So let me ask you a question. Okay. One person asked about brain exercises to do. What are some brain exercises that they could do?
So one of the things is just staying active, learning something new, not being afraid to learn something new. If there's a language you wanted to learn, or just doing various things that you enjoy, continuing to do those things. Puzzles, different luminosity type games, different mazes, but things that you enjoy, social interaction, those things all help you keeping yourself together. But again, learning, not being afraid to learn new things. A lot of times we think, oh, I just can't do that right now. When you start learning something, even the simplest thing, or reading, your brain can get better. So don't underestimate yourself. No, and think that, oh, well, I'm getting older, there's nothing that I can do. If there's something you want to take on, even learning how to knit, those types of things, challenging your brain, doing math problems. Like I know with my clients, I had a math teacher that I used to see that ended up having dementia, and she had forgotten how to do algebra. We worked on those things until the point where she was able to solve simple problems. And so said, oh no, I don't remember this, but each day we did that. Or I have a client of mine that was not able to tell me one day 10 plus 7. He's like, I don't know. So we started with, well, what's 1 plus 1? Well, 2. What's 3 plus 1? 4. And at the end of the session, what's 10 plus 7? 17. So it's working on different things, even at the end, but as we're younger, working on the problems and solution to find solutions on our own, and trying to do things to help us recall, to help us go through it. I know I'm talking a lot.
No, you're fine. But no, that's very true. Keeping active. So I was actually doing some research for my TED Talk. And with that, they talked about how the longer a person works, right, it helps dementia. Like it gives them purpose.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I do think that we kind of retire a little bit too early in this country. And my mom, she still works at 75, and she was able to pass her health insurance license within a week at 75. Yes. And that's actually my grandmother's daughter who had dementia and Alzheimer's, and she's doing it at 75. And my grandmother, she was diagnosed probably a little bit earlier than her age, in her early 70s. So so you can't prevent it. And she says her keeping active.
Yes.
Because I do think, like with dementia and Alzheimer's, and with just what I've seen, when a person's doing the same thing every day, or they're not getting stimulated, they're not getting changed by being out in the environment, new situations to solve, right? I do believe that that's not necessarily good for their brain.
Absolutely. My dad is 83, and he is doing amazing. I mean, he's like 83 going on 45, because I mean, he walks every day. He's strength training. I went to see him. I got him some weights for Christmas. This man came and showed me his bicep. I mean, he's still strengthening, building muscle. We went to go see Tamron Hall the other day, and Tamron, he had a great conversation with her just about.
You went to New York to see her?
We did. That was my dad and I have a bucket list. He's like, he's taking care of himself so he can do these things with me. So we went to see a live show. We were there we got to see 2 shows that day. And we do these things because he's like, since he was 30 years old, he made the decision that I want to live for as long as I can. And these diseases don't have to happen. So if you respect your body, we get one, guys. If there's one thing to remember, we get one life, one body. We have to preserve it. We have to take care of it, not at the end of life, but throughout. And share this with your children, not to be afraid to exercise, to lift weights, to eat well, love ourselves. We get one, and we can preserve and live long. Okay. It's so important.
We can absolutely. Listen, I just want to go ahead and shout. Thank you so much for joining us, Miss Teresa Gay. Yes, Miss Mamie Pullian. Thank you so much, y'all. We are doing this Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday. You all are watching Miss Lugina Duhiste. I'm sorry, I know I butchered it. Okay, you could reach her at YouTube at Tread Chic. Also at the holistic CSLP.builder. That's right there. But
and that's going to change. That's an issue that we had with the website this week. But if you need to reach out with me, please, on that website, if you feel like you're going through you're not sure about what's happening and you may have dementia, reach out and I can give you a quick test. And if you'd like further,
what about your email? Can we put your email in here?
Absolutely.
What is it? Come on. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's go with the holistic SLP. So THEWHOLISTIC SLP, the holistic SLP at gmail.com. And so message me with any inquiries. We can get, I have my own practice now. So please let me know if I can help out with anything with family members. I provide training for family members to help you with your loved ones. If you take care of if you're a caregiver that needs help with your loved ones, understanding how to communicate, understanding processing time.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Okay. Let's talk about caregiving. All right. And then we're going to wrap it up for today.
Okay.
Because caregiving, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And so let's say, all right, you're taking care of your parent or cousin or whoever, and they have dementia turning into Alzheimer's, right? How do you handle that? Because you're not just going through something, they're going through something too, right? Mm-hmm. I was told that one of the things you should never do is ask an Alzheimer's patient if they remember something.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So go ahead. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So first of all, and for any caregivers that are here, you are a superhero. That is one of the most difficult jobs. To take care of someone is not easy at all. And so as a caregiver, it's really important that you know that you have to take care of yourself as well. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You have to make sure that you are again, taking care of yourself, because you cannot take care of your loved ones if you're not getting the proper things. And all the things that we talked about with dementia, you want to make sure you're doing all of those things, taking time to take care of your mind, your body, taking breaks, asking for help, realizing that you cannot do all of this alone. And there are resources that we'll get into and talk about that can possibly help you. But in terms of family, I know a lot of times family sort of dissipates. When you have a family member that has dementia, everyone sort of disappears. And that's the time when we need everyone to come together to help out. Because you cannot. 1 in 6 caregivers pass away before the person that they're taking care of because of the increased stress and not understanding how to take care of themselves while they're taking care of their loved ones. And so it's really important that we understand that. And just there's so many different things. Melissa, I could go on for hours.
Yes, hours. No, I understand. So let me ask you a question. So she said, Belinda said, she said she has spinal stenosis, taking care of her mother. Thomas Clark, he said, happy birthday, blessings, Melissa, best wishes. Thank you so much. And Mr. Clark, he actually said something good. He was expanding. I'm going to bring it up. But let's talk about, I guess, for caregivers, right? Mm-hmm. They need help. Mm-hmm. They need help. They need a break.
Yeah. Yeah.
How can they get a break? And that's also called respite services, right?
Yes, those are called respite services. So wherever you are, I think a lot of people don't realize there are in your assisted living communities, there are ways that you can. Well, first, let's talk about daycare centers, adult daycare centers. that you can use during the day when you need assistance. You have those assisted living facilities. Those are places you can call if you need a week or two of assistance. They can sometimes take your loved one in while you need that well needed care. So a lot of people don't realize that you can call your local assisted living, and if they have sufficient space, they can take your loved one and help them. Or calling your insurance to see, because a lot of insurances, some states offer insurance. Your insurance does allow for respite care,
Yes,
having a
yes.
caregiver come in.
And I was about to say that too, with your Medicare programs,
Yeah,
they
okay.
do have what they call caregiver support. A lot of these companies do have caregiver support. They don't necessarily advertise that a lot, but some of them do have caregiver support where they will actually, come and sit, have respite services where they'll give you a break.
Yes.
Right. And send someone in, or if you need adult daycare, they'll help you with those things.
Yeah.
Right. And that is through your insurance with you have Medicare that is available for you.
Absolutely.
As well. So another thing, I know that with Alzheimer's, right, person, they can definitely change their personality. And I know with my grandmother, she would walk all night long, right? She was a night walker. Okay. I don't know if anybody here has ever experienced that. How do you handle that? Because it's like you're trying to get a break, but they're up all night.
Yeah.
Right. Is there something that you could do?
When it comes to them walking around all night, well, let me start by saying this. I know a lot of people have a hard time thinking home or an assisted living facility is okay, whatever works best for you. And I know a lot of people can't even think about an assisted living, but I need people to realize that if you need assistance, if you're at the brink of you can no longer do this, you have to think about other situations. It's okay to look at those things. You're not an evil person if you are trying to take care of yourself and your loved one and looking into either a home health aide come into your home or looking at an assisted living facility. Those things are okay. When you have a person that is could be walking all night, just sort of talking with them, or figure out what's going on. Usually there's something that's triggering this. And there's sundowners.
Sundown, that's what they call it.
Right, where it's just they have this behavior later on at night. So it's really having a conversation, what's going on, doing things to calm them and soothe them, to try to get them to want to get to bed, whether it be oils, whether it be music that they like. So it's really trying to understand what's happening. Usually, like if there's an erratic behavior or something going on, there may be some underlying thing that is taking place. And then with the night walking, again, trying to do things to calm them down, settle them down, sitting with them to help them out. But sometimes it's just they're going to be walking around, just making sure it's safe for them to do that.
It's safe. Okay. So somebody said, can this be viewed later today? Yes. So once this live stream is over, you could actually share this out and come back and view it later. And we please ask that you share this out because somebody does need this information. Also, you mentioned something about oils to calm them down. What type of oils are good to calm people down?
Lavender is a good one to put into someone's hands and then have them just put it into their nose and just smell it. Sometimes that can help. Lavender is a good one, peppermint, but especially lavender is a good one to put into their hands, oils, and sort of rub around with a little coconut oil and then have them smell it. Sometimes that calms them down. Even walking with them throughout the day can do that, can help to calm and figure out what could be going on. This is one thing I want to talk about before I forget. This is one question I know that a lot of times with those of our family members that have dementia, they'll typically ask about a family member and say, well, where's my husband, or where's mom, or where's my brother? And I want to make sure that we know not to say, well, remember they died. We should never, ever, when you do that, it's like the person is going through that trauma all over again. So it's so important that when someone says something, you want to say, you know what, where are they? I wonder where they are. What do you think they're doing? Where do you think they are? And so it's about diverting it and not saying they died. Dad died, mom. We can't do that because we have to remember that with dementia, any type of dementia, this person's mind may not be gone, but their mind may be going through brain failure, because that's what it is, brain failure. That's what it is. But they still have a heart. So
Wow.
they may say the cruelest things to you, they may do the meanest things to you, but remember, that's not them, right? They still have a heart and they still feel. So you have to watch the way you say things, and you need to give them the processing time. You need to give them the you need to be patient. um yeah, so that's an important thing. So that's when someone says, you know, don't ever just say that. Divert the conversation, have another thing, or look at pictures, bring some pictures out, or bring up a funny story.
Mm,
Remember when mom did this, and then start talking about memories. If the person likes to gossip, gossip and have some fun. If the person, but like I had one client who put on a pair of pants, who thought she was putting on a pants, but put it on her shirt by accident. So she was putting her shirt leg around her legs.
mm.
Her shirt arms were the pants. So instead of telling her, mom, that's your shirt, what are you doing, it's more like, you know what, I shrunk the clothes, let me have that, let me go give you some pants, I did that. So almost like blaming it on yourself. And then
Yes.
realizing that you're never going to win an argument with someone with dementia. You're never going
You're
to.
never
So
going to win an
you're
argument. I think
never
that's
going to
wise
win.
words. You're never going to win that
Never. If
argument.
if there are aliens in the backyard, there are
Mm.
aliens in the backyard, and you're going to talk with them to decide how you're going to get rid of them. It's like you're in their world. You're
She said,
living in a movie, and you have to be an actor in their film.
I could believe that. Belinda said, I'm glad you told me because my sister tells my mother their dad has died.
Don't do
That,
that.
I'm sure that probably triggers her so bad.
Yes, don't do it. Do not do it. Show pictures, talk about things, ask where do you think they are? Well, they'll be back soon. Don't even worry about it. Or, I have no idea. And then say, hey, mom, can you help me fold some clothes? That's another thing. If you have someone that's in the home with you, give them something to do every day. If it's the same basket
Mm.
of towels that you're folding every day, that they have, you dump out the towels and they fold that, and you dump out the same clean towels every morning, every time you need something to do, or the same socks for them to put together, or the same, or putting, organizing flowers, making sure it's, even if it's the same things every day, because some people will say, oh, well, I gave them the towels. It's the same 16 towels you buy for them to keep folding constantly.
So, and you, that brings up a point because I noticed a lot of people who have dementia,
Mhm.
they actually get a baby doll and they take
Yes,
care of this baby.
absolutely.
And I think that goes to what you're saying, giving them something to do.
Yes, taking care. I have a lot of clients that love that and will change the baby and tell you all about their baby. And don't say that's not a baby. I have people like, no, that is their child. And that again, I'm a player in their movie, and I'm going to be the best actor, and I'm going to get an award at the end of the show because I did such a great job with in their film. So you do your best to be the best actress or actor you can be in their movie to make sure everything is as much peace as possible.
Yes, she said whatever they say, you should side with them. So
Yes,
also
absolutely.
Miss Drake, she asked about CBD. Can we give them CBD? She want to drug them up a little bit.
I don't.
Really?
I know nothing about. I don't know much about how that it could be, but I don't know much about the research. But please, if you find out, Belinda, that could definitely be. I haven't done a lot of research to say anything.
Okay. So, I guess, I mean, we've covered so much. We went over, the different types of dementia, how to prevent it, right? Caregiver support. So let's see. I guess we kind of covered it all. In case there are any last questions here, I appreciate your time so much.
No
Okay. And I
problem.
think everybody got a lot out of it. Remember, you all, there is help available through your Medicare plan. There may be some options for respite care and other support services that you all may need.
And support groups in your area. There
And
are a lot of
support groups.
online groups, When you think you may be the only one going through something, please look online for support groups in your area, so
Mhm.
that you can talk with others that could help you go through whatever you're going through right now. They're very helpful. And again, if you're looking for a test or an assessment, please reach out. I can definitely help you out with that.
What does your test look like?
So it depends. The quick form is questions about orientation,
Mhm.
working memory, immediate recall, delayed recall, executive function, which is consisted of planning or planning within your brain. And so those types of tests and then we also have the clock test on there, and the test takes about 10 to 15 minutes. That's just
So
short.
oh, it's a short. Okay, with the clock test, do you just draw a clock? Is that all you do?
No, the person has to draw a clock, and then, well, I can't tell you. I don't want to tell them just in case.
Okay.
But yeah, you draw a clock, and then you have to put the time in there, and I tell you a particular time to use the hands to do that. And it's not as easy for someone that's going through this, because those parts of the brain are no longer be working. So the way they write those numbers on there, the way that they do tell me different things about what could be going on in the brain.
Okay, great. Also, we're going to stay away from stress as well, processed sugars, because it's very closely related.
Ultra processed foods. Yeah.
Absolutely. So Miss Betty Johnson, if I go back to work full time, is Medicare the primary insurance? It will be, even if you have insurance through your job. If you keep your Medicare, it will be the primary insurance. And also, it's times where they could work together as well, where you won't have to pay any out of pocket costs, Miss Johnson, too. So you should definitely reach out to me, and I can give you some more details on that. That's a good question. Belinda, she said, I put CBD ointment for pain on her arthritis. She says it worked. LOL. I need to test seriously. Again, please reach out to Legina. I want to go ahead and just put her email. I think that's the easiest way to contact her. It's the holistic slp@gmail.com, and she is very passionate. You can also catch her at YouTube on Tread Chic on YouTube. Yes, please go ahead, and you could walk with her. All right, because that's one thing you said, exercising, keeping that blood flow. I guess from this conversation, my big takeaway is that I did not realize how closely the blood flow that was a part of it. Emma J, she said, this was extremely useful advice. My dad has dementia, so these tips are going to help us with the questions. Thank you. Yeah. You are so welcome, Emma J. You are so welcome. And yeah, because caregivers, we need it. I remember when my grandmother came up here, right? So she lives in South Carolina. We were living in Maryland, my family, and we had to bring her from South Carolina to Maryland, and all my aunts there, they were working, so we were kind of tossing her from house to house to house so we could try to figure out how we were even going to pay for assisted living. And so while this was happening, she was staying overnight, and I mean, again, during the day she needed care, and then at night she was up. It was just constant. And so this caregiver support, she was asking a lot of questions. So this caregiver support, it's invaluable. And again, we are going to be doing this every Wednesday. So wherever you all see this, YouTube, Facebook, wherever, go ahead and subscribe to this channel as well. Again, next Wednesday, we are going to be talking about wills, trust, and estates. Okay. I'm going to have an expert on, Ryan Palomini. He's going to talk all about this. So make sure you all subscribe. Make sure you all go to our website. We're going to put out another invite as well, so you all can register. And again, we thank you. Thank you so much, Lugina, for coming. YouTube at Tread Chic. We're with the Hall. You have one last thing to say?
One more thing. For my caregivers, I have a workshop where I go into detail about caregiving. Just even taking when your loved one doesn't want to take a shower, why that is, understanding in depth. It's about a 45-minute PowerPoint. It's a workshop that I'm going to be having. So if you're interested,
when is that workshop?
Well, I'm still setting up the time now because I have a few. I'm going to start having it each month, and so if they send me an email, I could send them the link to so that they can sign up to come to that class. Again, it's an in-depth understanding, taking care of yourself and your loved ones, understanding a lot that they're going through, etc.
Oh yeah, that'd be so. They really need it. All right, y'all. Y'all have she said, I'm a caregiver needing caregiving. We're gonna pray for you, Miss Drake, and your mom. All right, y'all. Again, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Thank you, Legina. All right. See y'all next week, same time. Have a great day.
Thanks again for having me. Happy birthday, Melissa.
Thank you.
Bye.